Hello everyone, today in this video we will fight against the atmospheric of our world around us, and this time we will talk about one historical book I read recently. The book is entitled Ancient Greeks and its author was Mr. Moses Israel Finley, real surname Finkelstein. The future historian Mr. Finley was born in 1912 in New York, and he died in UK in 1986. His life was full of scientific adventure, but also turbulent politically, because when McCarthyism started, Mr. Finley, who really had left-oriented political views and he was follower of Marxist school, he was infected by a positive view of the Eastern Bloc, because of course it was somehow closer to his heart and maybe also to his origin, as names and surnames suggest. He was of Jewish origin, and also he, as I mentioned, was really much affected by the Frankfurt School of Marxism, so this mixture directed him into this and this political spectrum, so really leftist. So in 50s and 60s he emigrated to UK and just was appointed on one of the most famous UK universities. If I remember correctly, it was Cambridge and Oxford those days, and I think today is similar, was really much infiltrated by Soviet spies and leftist agenda. So most likely Mr. Finley in this scientific environment in UK found a really good environment for himself. But let's put some of his political views and activities aside. He was a good historian of specialized mainly in ancient Greece. And his book I would like to talk about now, Ancient Greeks, is a very good introduction to the ancient Greek civilization from its very beginning. So the migration of Greeks, the times of the Trojan War, in which Mr. Finley not really fully believes, but he gives a very good evidence of a materialistic basis of the world of late Bronze Age. So at least in this book we receive a brief description of the materialistic and social conditions of the late Bronze Age, so the time during which, in my opinion and in opinion of many people, Trojan War took place. And later we of course go through the Dark Ages and Archaic Greece, Classical period, and we end up with the short description of Hellenistic period. The short description of Hellenistic period Mr. Finley somehow doesn't like, because he just writes that Hellenistic period, what was partially true, was full of the awful politics and almost never-ending conflicts, which is true, and Roman state just conquering, and Parthian state from the other side, Roman state from the west conquering Hellenistic kingdoms. These two nations gave peace to the Greeks and nations with which Greeks were living after the conquest of Alexander the Great. And Mr. Finley gives us a really good description of almost all aspects of Greek life, also about their artistic production, from ceramics to sculpture. Later he tries to comment a little bit about paintings from the modest remains of knowledge about the Greek paintings we have. He of course dedicates a lot of place in his small, tiny, beautiful book to the Athenian Empire and Athens and Athenian society, and this is the most irritating for me part of the book, because he tries his best to defend Athenian democracy and whitewash its black periods of history For instance, somehow he completely omits such events like expulsion of the greatest patriots and national heroes of Athens like Cimon, who were expelled by the jealous, weak people who for a moment just got a power in Athenian democratic system and convinced, bribed of course, uh, primitive, stupid population voters to vote for the in favor of the expulsion of such people like Cimon. Somehow these facts disappear from the book of Mr. Finley or never appear. Somehow it dies out in between the line of his text. And of course, Mr. Finley dedicates a huge chunk of his text for the great comedies of Aristophanes. Of course, he interprets the fact that they existed as a proof for very great freedoms of citizens of Athens, that they could express their feelings and opinions about politicians and current situation. So he interprets everything in favor of Athenian democracy, but he seems to forget purposedly that such performances and such works that were shown to the public had different function. They had function simple, just to release the tensions that were accumulated among the people because of the activity of politicians. To release these tensions, to enable politicians to rule for a little bit longer. And of course, maybe these comedies sometimes make fun of some politicians and some of their political decisions, but I'm sure, like in almost every, in quotation, democratic societies, before they were shown to the public on the stage, they were edited and censored by proper people, or even self-censorship and self-editing from the side of author who wanted to keep his good position and live his good life and preserve his fame. I think very often self-censorship from the author side and self-editing was introduced by Mr. Aristophanes himself, what is typical to such societies. And of course, Mr. Finley does everything to defend the case of Socrates, but he tries to defend Athenian democratic institutions against Socrates, proving that they really didn't want to kill him, they really didn't want to punish Socrates, but he was so stubborn, he was so really tough in his views that he had to die, of course. So I would quote my favorite Colombian philosopher Nicolas Gomez Davila, that everyone who is in favor in democracy should read Greek historians to know the truth about this system. I'm sure, because he proved it. Mr. Moses Israel Finlay read it, studied this text, and not only these historical sources, but his writings on Athenian democracy are ideologically motivated, because as cultural Marxist, to be in line with his views, he needs to defend Athenian democracy at any cost. And this is the only large flaw of this book, good book, introductory text to the world of ancient Greeks, I have to point at, and people who are already equipped with this knowledge, what I mentioned here about this book, can sit and enjoy the text and just point at the flaws of this text on their own, and do everything not to be influenced by some ideologically motivated arguments from the side of Mr. Finlay. All the best, have a nice day, bye.